As we told you in the beginning, we were going to go talk about some history and how the value of religion here in Egypt and how Islam got into the country. But also we want to talk about a very important aspect of Islam, which is the role of women. And we're joined today by our guest, Dr. Ismail Hamid, researcher of comparative religions, and he is one of the authors who has extensively done some extensive research on the role of women historically, ever since the Pharaonic times and throughout the Islamic era, and how they have had a very active role, not just in politics, but in society as a whole. And this morning we're pleased to be joined by Ismail Hamid. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
We'd like to ask you, because we recently were talking about the Constitutional Assembly and how it should include all of society and especially women, and you've done so many books with regards to women. So could you tell us the history of women in the nation and how they have definitely played the role even in the religions?
Yes, thank you so much for the nice invitation, and I would like firstly to congratulate all the Muslims in the whole the world for Ramadan, and we hope to have a blessing month and to have special days for all the Muslims in the world. Surely that the women and the across the history played a very important role. Yes, we talk about positive roles and negative roles all the same time, but lots of people, they talk about the negative role and they insist on that, and especially of the story of Eve. Eve, she was the wife of Adam, and according to some traditions that she was the woman that took Adam from the paradise and to go to the earth, and that is a false story. And according to what is mentioned on the correct sources, that it was not Eve, she was the cause of that. No, it was Adam himself and Eve. When they Satan, they told them to eat from the tree that God told them not to eat from this, because if you eat of that, so yes, so it's a very I think very bad mistake of the people that they insist of that. So Eve, she was the one that took Adam from the paradise, and then they went down to the earth in order to suffer and all that. So it's a false story from the beginning of the story of the man. And also across the history, women played very important role during, especially from the Pharaonic time, that they played a role as queens of Egypt, as Pharaoh. And we have from the Pharaonic time, we have 7 women that they were Pharaoh, and they ascended on the throne of Egypt. And especially one of them, like Hatshepsut, which was one of the most important women on all the history, that she became the queen of Egypt and a Pharaoh for 22 years.
Wow.
So we talk about 4,000 years, and there was Egyptian woman that she became Pharaoh for such long time. And even now, we doubt about the woman. She could be a king, she could be president, she could be whatever. And the Egyptians, they were convinced of that story from that long time ago.
Some people forget this nowadays, though.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
some people
We want to revive all these stories for the people. And even from before Hatshepsut, we have even from the first Pharaonic dynasty, we have an Egyptian queen from 3200 BC. She was a pharaoh. She was called Merit, or she was called, I'm sorry, as Merit Aton, or Merit Amon, I'm sorry, and she was that pharaoh from the first dynasty. And even from the fourth dynasty, there was Khentkaus, another pharaoh. She became a pharaoh of Egypt nearly 2500 BC. And then from the 6th dynasty, we have another queen. She was called Nit Ekret, and she was a pharaoh, a queen pharaoh over the throne of Egypt. From the 12th dynasty, we have Sobek-Nefru, another queen pharaoh. And after that, till Hatshepsut, we have 7 queens that they were ruling Egypt, and the last one of them, she was the most famous woman on the history. She was Cleopatra, that ruled Egypt about 20 years. So it is such some importance of the ladies and the woman and her role during that society, and even also on the Islamic society, women played a very important role. Even that she was a woman or a wife of a prophet, and even that she was a wife of a companion of the prophets and their role. We have lots of stories, and me, I wrote about 5 books about the roles of the women and that they played across the history as the queens, or as wife of prophets, as a wife of companion, as whatever. So that's very important to know that.
Today, unfortunately, though, some people have the view that Islam marginalizes women, and this has been in recent politics as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
So how would you, give us some brief explanation of how Islam actually honors women and gives
Yes.
them the role that they deserve?
So I can say, without any exaggeration, that woman in Islam is a queen. We have a queen. You protect her. You put her in a special position with more care that you can imagine. Not like in Europe, for example, that they let the girl from 14 or 15 years and she's gone and she's doing all that she wants and without the care of the family. No, our daughter, she is our heart, is more than, and so on, according to the tradition of the Prophet, that he told the man, try to find a good man for your girl. And this is a tradition of the Prophet. So try to find a good man for your girl. This one of the most important role of the father, to find a good girl or a good man for your girl. So something very important for us also. The woman that the man, he is independent, or he is the one who is doing everything for her. She's just orders, and the man, he is doing. Okay, so I want whatever. So he is the man. The man, he is the servant of the woman. She is the mistress of her house.
But what about with regards to her political, as well as being a good wife? What about her political participation, her participation in society?
Until now, or in the old times?
In the times you're talking about, with regards to the rise of Islam and...
Yes, with the rise of Islam, I think we had a woman that she became a king of Egypt. I think Shagar al-Dor, she's a very brilliant examples of a woman that she became a queen of Egypt, and for the first time a woman in history of Islam, that there was a woman that she became as the queen of Egypt. So she was the wife of the king Salih Najmuddin Ayyub, who was the grandson of Salah ad-Din, and he was dead during the war with the Crusaders. Okay, so it was in Mansoura. So the king was dead during that time. So what about Shagardor? What she can do? So she did not tell anyone about the death of the king, because if the soldiers on the battle, they know about the death of the king, it will make a disturbance, will make a problem between the soldiers, will make a problem. So she was a very smart woman. She hid everything about the death of the man, and she signed everything instead of him, until the soldiers, they defeated their enemies, and they had the victory, and they drive the enemies out of Al-Mansura, and they did that victory. So she declared the people that the king is dead. So the people, they took her as the queen of Egypt. But the problem that she stayed about 80 days as the queen, and after that the caliph of the Abbasid caliph, he told the Egyptians on a message, if you don't have a man, we can send you a man to be the king of Egypt. So for that, Shagar al-Dor, she was obliged to marry another one. He was a Mamluk, Izzuddin Aibak.
They never give us women a chance.
Yes,
right?
but we
even though it has been historically proven,
yes,
that
but
they
she
are
proved
strong and they
in
can
80 days, and she did very good acts, and she protected the Egyptian army from a big problem. If the soldiers, they know that their king is dead, so it will be over for them. It will be the end of the story of the war, and Egypt will be occupied by the Crusaders. But she was a very smart woman, and they did very intelligent acts like that. So we got very good points about that of such a lady like that. Yes, and lots of other examples also that we have during the Islamic history.
Ismail Hamid, researcher of comparative religions, thank you so much for joining us. Unfortunately, this is all we have for our show today, but it was a very fruitful discussion.
Thank you.
We want more stories.
Yes. With this, we come to the end of the breakfast show for today. Hopefully you enjoyed our segments. Rahma, thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Have a good day.